Eddie still had his jump badge. He was very, very proud of it. And he told me that after they qualified as paratroopers, they were given the cloth badge for the qualification jump. I think there's 6 jumps as they had to do. And he said when he was in Italy, they were lined up and they were actually awarded the medal paratrooper badge that he was very proud of. And he said when he was captured, he was terrified that the Americans were going to take it from him. And so he told me that he had loosened up the waistline in his pants and he had stuck it in the waistline of his pants and sewed it together. And that's how he was able to get through prison camp with it. He told me that he had been convalesced because his wound was so bad he really couldn't walk anymore. And at the end of the war, he was convalescing in Germany, and he said it got so bad with the Russians coming from the east and the Americans, allies coming from the west, he said that he was thrown back into the line. At the very end, they pulled him out of the hospital and gave him a gun and put him in a trench and told him to fight to the last man and last bullet. I think that he realized at that point that it was over with, and he surrendered. I can't remember his story offhand of his surrender right now, but he was kind to me, and he always took me around Aachen when we went there. He liked to show me a city. And one time he took me out to the outskirts of Aachen to this big farmer's field. It was a huge cultivated field. And he told me there was a massive tank battle here. He told me lots of men died here in tanks. And you could see, I mean, it would have been armor country, you know, sloping hills. Anyway, Eddie Rebiga, another German paratrooper that I got to know, very, very kind, gentle man. I don't think he ever jumped in combat. The combat jumps were over by the time he got there. He took me one time to a friend of his house. The gentleman was blind, and we went up into the attic, and it was one of those deals like you see on TV where there's a secret wall that opens up and you go into another room. And this guy had a collection. I mean, I was like, he's blind and he's got a collection like this. And Eddie said, well, he's collected since the end of the war. He said he collected when this stuff was everywhere. And there was a Luftwaffe officer's dagger there with a white handle on it. And Eddie saw that and he said, oh, I always wanted to be an officer and have one of those. And you know, I had one of those at home. So when I got home, I had a couple of those at one time. Anyway, I packaged that one up that had the white handle on it, and I mailed it to Eddie and told him that he was supposed to be an officer, but he just ran out of time. The war ended too quick. So when I visited him one time, he had it on his bookshelf, but I think it got him in trouble because at some point, not long before he died, the police, the German police came to his house to interview him about an incident in Italy that happened. Apparently, some paratroopers were being accused of killing civilians in the area where Eddie had been, and they were interviewing him about it. And Eddie said they shook him up pretty bad. He said they went through his whole house, and he said they confiscated any books that he had about World War II, and I think they confiscated that dagger. He said, you know, had to do with the war. They took it from him. He wasn't allowed to have anything from it. So I believe he was exonerated, or they never charged him. He was able to prove that he wasn't even in that area when whatever happened happened. In any event, I got to know a lot of veterans when they were alive, American and German, which was, to me, it was a great joy. It was a fascination. I remember reading a story about a guy that was alive at the turn of the last century, the 18 to 1900s, and he used to sit at the courthouse square and listen to the old Civil War soldiers tell their stories. And he talked about as they died off one by one when they were all gone, that he always sat there by himself. You know, he didn't have anybody to talk to about that stuff anymore. And that's kind of how I feel, because I used to always talk to the veterans. There were veterans everywhere when I grew up. Everybody was a veteran. Everybody's dad or granddad was a veteran. And I used to key into all of them. And now they're all gone. Nobody even, anyway. Lest we forget World War II, signing off. Eddie, look up.